Lighting our chalice today is our speaker, Eddy Morales. Across the distance, the light from within me shines, sending love to all. Across the distance, your light is fuel that warms me and helps to keep my own light burning. Together, we keep the flame of community burning bright. So, good morning.
Good morning.
They're well trained by now. Yes. Good morning to everyone here in the chapel and to all of those out there at home, and welcome to Eastrose Fellowship Unitarian Universalist. I'm Cynthia Hopkins, your worship leader today. And welcome to any first-time visitors, both in person and online. We are very glad you're here. Now, I'm going to ask, this is a new ritual we're doing now that we are multi-platform, turn and greet each other in the chapel as we used to do, and then turn to the cameras at the back of the room and say hi to our friends online. So, happy to be back together in worship. Okay. Today's service, those of you here in the chapel can see, I don't know that you online can see, but we're also being filmed. This is for some segments of today's service may be used at the GA service next month. So be on your best behavior. A couple of reminders for those who would like to share during joys and concerns. If you're online, please write out your joy or concern in the chat and it'll be handed to me at the appropriate time. If you're in the chapel, there are forms in the lobby, the blue forms you can fill out. You've got time to do that before we collect them during the offering. Put them in the basket and then we'll share them during that time. We have, for a while now, made a very important acknowledgement, and I'm going to do it again this Sunday. We acknowledge the lands where our fellowship gathers and that are home now to our widespread communities. These lands were the traditional village sites of many tribes, including Multnomah, Wasco, Wishram, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, and bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Malala, and many other peoples who lived their lives here. We thank the original caretakers of this land and their descendants who are among us still. In peace may we share this land and honor one another. Our speaker this morning is Eddy Morales. He's a Gresham City Councilman and I believe president of the council and founder of East County Rising. He is a friend of Eastrose where he has spoken several times, and he and Hugh are becoming members today of Eastrose. As East County Rising's founder, Eddy has dedicated himself to increasing civic engagement among underserved populations in East Multnomah County and supporting candidates and elected officials who advance equitable policies. Through his work, he hopes to make local democracy work for everyone and build a platform for rising leaders who can represent a great diversity of cultures and lived experiences. And for any of you who have followed East County Rising online, or if you get Facebook from Eddy and East County Rising, you'll know they have been doing exactly that. So I have another paragraph of intro, but I'd just rather give Eddie the time to talk himself. So it's time for our opening hymn. And if you want to use the hymnals here in the chapel, it's number 298, Wake Now My Senses. For all of you, the words will be on the screen. And please rise as you are able for singing.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Everybody. Today we have a very special story for story time, and it's about a little girl named Elmira and her pet porpoise. Now, Elmira was looking forward for her birthday because she expected to get a very special present, a pet porpoise. Now, probably most of you know a porpoise is a sea mammal. It's part of the dolphin family. It's smaller and shyer than a dolphin, and they can be very hard to find, but porpoises are very, very important to the ecosystem.
Chart.
Yeah.
Let me stop you right here.
Yeah?
The topic for today is about finding a purpose. Purpose.
Not porpoises?
No, not porpoises. But you know what?
Never mind.
No,
never mind.
you go ahead and tell your story anyway. We need something for this piece.
Oh, okay. It's a cute story anyway. So as I was saying, Myra was really looking forward to her birthday because she was expecting to get a porpoise for her present. She told all her friends at school, I'm getting a porpoise for my birthday. She told her grandparents, you know you're bringing me a porpoise. She told her parents the same thing. Well, her birthday came and went, no porpoise. So she was very, very disappointed, and she wanted some answers. So she went to her parents and wanted to know where her porpoise was. And they said, oh, Myra, we couldn't get you a porpoise. That is something you need to seek out for yourself. Myra looked at her parents kind of funny and said, you know I said porpoise, right? You know, like the sea animal, smaller than a dolphin, a porpoise. Her parents looked at each other and said, "Oops, but you can't have a wild animal for your birthday anyway." Well, then she tried her grandparents. So she went up to them and they said, "Oh, Amira, we can't get you a purpose. You'll have to figure out your purpose when you're older. And sometimes even adults don't know their own purpose." Well, by this point, Amira was getting a little annoyed. "I said porpoise, porpoise, like the dolphin, a sea mammal." Her grandparents said, "Oh, sorry, we misheard you. But we wouldn't have bought you a porpoise anyway. They belong out in the wild, dear." Oh, by this time, Amira was fuming. Why had no one understood her when she wanted a porpoise? And now that she thought about it, why were the adults unwilling to give her a purpose either? What was a purpose anyway? So Amira set about to find a purpose. Over the next several years, she asked a lot of adults that she knew and trusted. Some of the adults said, "I don't know, that's a really hard thing to explain." But some of the adults gave her some good advice. They said, "Pay attention to the things you care about and how you can use those to make a difference in the world. You may not have a clear idea about it yet, and your purpose will certainly change over time. But if you think about the things you value and how you care and use those things for good in the world, you'll be on the right track." So Amira thought about the things she valued and cared about, things like animals and the habitats they live in. She thought about the things she liked to do, like learning new things and then teaching those new things to younger children. And she thought about her heroes, people who were living their lives in ways she wanted to copy. And she thought about what was possible and how could she change the world when she was older. And eventually, after some time and some work, Amira came up with her purpose. And the funny thing is that Amira's purpose didn't shy too far away from porpoises. She decided that her purpose was to be a caring advocate for the earth and to teach others about conservation. And that's just what she did. She went to work for the Porpoise Conservation Society. So in the end, Amira found both her purpose and her porpoise. Thank you. Amira says thank you.
Thank you, Char. A fantastic story. It's time for our offering. Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. That vision is embodied in a few large congregations, numerous mid-sized congregations, and many, many small congregations. No matter its size, every congregation depends on each of its members. Each one of you, by your commitment of time, energy, and resources, helps make that grand vision real. Individually and together, we are Unitarian Universalists, building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. Eastrose shares half of each Sunday's collection with a local nonprofit, and for the month of April, we are sharing with East County Rising Community Projects, a grassroots organization energizing East Multnomah County residents to create equitable, livable communities of underrepresented and marginalized people. And with us today is the current president of East County Rising, Hugh Harris. Raise your hand, Hugh. Thank you for joining us. Their mission is to support the creation of a vibrant, sustainable community with equitable opportunities and where all of our needs are met. And just information for you, General Assembly next month will be taking up a collection for East County Rising. And so that is really, really good news. And now Char and I will go among you and gratefully receive your contributions. Eastrose is a welcoming community where we find connection, and a spiritual community where we find meaning. Eastrose is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We take this moment to reflect on our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of each other in this community. Mary will assist by placing a pebble in the water on the altar for each joy or concern. For many weeks now, we have a collective sorrow for the atrocities, horrible, horrible atrocities being committed in Ukraine by Russia. And we put pebbles in there for that, yes. And then there are joys and concerns not expressed today, but I know are living in your hearts. And Mary will place the heartstone in the water for those. We're going to be singing number 352 in the gray hymnal, Find a Stillness, but please remain seated. The words will be on the screen. Eddie and I are going to lead us in a prayer reading, an Earth Day prayer. Spirit of life, Spirit of earth, Spirit of all that breathes and all that is, we love you.
We love this planet and its people and its beings. We love this interdependent web of all existence, of which we are part. We love it all, and we want it all to be well and blessed and healthy.
But we are human, and as a people, our hearts are still small. So often our love and our sincere desire for the well-being of all is not yet enough to restrain our collective desire for more for ourselves, more money, more power, more things.
So often we act in the service of that desire for more in ways that harm our fellow humans and the countless beings with whom we share this earth. And so often, even when we do otherwise, we feel powerless. The problems are so big, the scale so enormous. What can one person or one small group really do?
But today, let our prayer be for hope and commitment to stay in the struggle, to do what is right as best we can each day, and to love you, Spirit of earth and ocean, stars and rocks, beings of every kind, not least our human neighbors, to love this glorious whole as we love ourselves. for we are you, and you are us. Blessed be.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is a real pleasure to be here with you in person today. I've missed a lot of your faces, even though I got to see them two-dimensionally on Zoom for the last year. Before I get into my remarks, I just want to say thank you, Cynthia, for all of your work organizing today's service, and also acknowledge two special guests that are with us today. One person who I admire and I believe is the champion of sort of environmental justice, and what an appropriate day for her to be here with us. She's our state representative, Con Pham, who we will both be speaking on a panel at the General Assembly around sort of climate justice and building broad coalitions around the work. Con was one of the leaders in passing the Portland Clean Energy Fund and has just done incredible work as a state representative. And so honored that you are here with us today, and also from the east side. And then we also have Reverend Joseph Santos Lyons, also from the Unitarian Universalist community. And so, and also a leader in our community for quite some time, and is also currently helping a lot of our work in East County with East County Rising as well. And so just wanted to acknowledge them because I think it's such a treat we have them here as guests. Hugh and I are so proud to be part of this community, one that aligns so much with our values of love, justice, equity, and so thank you for welcoming us every time that we come here and feel so included. It is so nice to see everyone. It's nice to see the sun today, the flowers, a couple of bunnies. Well, until, even though we had, some funky weather this week, rain, some hail, but that's sort of the Oregon spring for all of us, isn't it? Now that snow dump that we had last Monday and Tuesday, well, that's just called climate change. Like I said, it's humbling to be here with all of you. I haven't seen so many of you in person in at least 2 years, and we have been through a lot. Individually, as a community, we have been through so much. I've had tremendous loss in my family. I lost a sister. I've lost a brother, and then my father passed as well. And I know a lot of my friends and family members also have a lot of those stories of losing someone and then not being able to properly mourn losses in our community, right? Our economy and the society that underpins it endured a time of bleak, cold isolation as we voluntarily hunkered down to protect our families, our neighbors, and each other. But despite the pandemic, we all found ways to look out for one another. We strengthened our community. We strengthened our community. Our bonds got stronger as we got to know our neighbors a little bit better. And through mutual support, and just for the plain sake of human need to be in relationship with one another, we found ways to do Zoom to create a sense of community. We showed up when each other needed help, support, and help to spread information about where we could get vaccinated, where we could receive supports and services. We also did something incredible in the last 2 years. We took it to the polls and to the streets, and we said no to the racism and bigotry and injustice that has infected our country for way too long. And now we're all here, right, trying to make sense of this world, and make it work as best as we can. I'm still kind of clumsy when I'm coming around people. Didn't know whether to hug, to shake, to elbow bump somebody. And so we show grace with one another as we come back to trying to find a norm. But what we can't do is we cannot go back in time, nor should we even try to do so. Because for so many people in our community, going back means going back to not feeling included, to not feeling part of a community, to resurfacing trauma and discrimination. So this is a really important time for us to think about how we continue to move forward. And it is spring in so many ways, right? A time of birth and renewal, and a time to contemplate warmer days that are to come. It's also the time where we start to plan about what we're going to do for the rest of the year, what vacations, where we're going to travel, all the chores that we have to do. Spring is really an awkward, funny, in-between time. It's a time of sprouts amid the mud. If you grew up like I did, surrounded by some chickens and a pet lamb, then you know that babies have shaky legs. And one day at a time, they get stronger with each passing step. You know, I tell a story about my pet lamb, who I had a really great relationship to until she ended up on our dinner table. And since then, do not eat lamb. But it is also springtime here in Gresham. Our community and our government has been in a period of rebirth, of listening and learning. The crops that we seek to cultivate is more responsive, it's open, and one that serves all of our community. It's a crop that is going to need to be sustained. It's going to require collaborative efforts and careful attention to grow, but it's really possible. If you want to see the power of our community in action, you can see how the gardens in Nadaka, Vance Park, and soon the Rockwood Village are flourishing, so much thanks to our community. Amid the darkest moments in the pandemic, we did incredible things here in Gresham. First of all, we moved quickly to make sure that people were not evicted because they were not able to work and maybe not able to afford their mortgage or their rent. We put a moratorium in place and just recently lifted it. We're now discussing how we're going to ensure that the 135 people in Gresham who are at risk of being evicted get reached out to, and that we take care of the past mortgages and past rents to prevent that. We know it is cheaper to do that than to displace people in our community, 10 times cheaper to do that. And so we're doing that now. We launched millions of dollars in emergency relief to our community for rental assistance, for assistance with utilities, and really we're pretty broad in general about getting that to our folks. We did grants for small businesses. We knew that a significant chunk of our economy in Gresham are small businesses, a lot of people who work independently, a lot of diverse restaurants and shops, and moved about $1 million in support to make sure that our businesses stayed alive through the process. We hired the first city manager in 18 years, and she is a woman, and she has the same values that I'll say about this community here in this room: justice, equity, love, and responsiveness, and is already making changes to our city. We also hired a new chief of police. You know, our last chief had some issues around race issues, and this new chief of police, is a reformer who understands that policing alone is not going to solve all of the problems in our community, like crime or violence, that it's actually a part of a larger comprehensive plan that includes giving people opportunity and recreational programming and the mental health that they need to strive. We put in wellness calls, so all of our city staff ended up calling vulnerable members of our community just to check in on them. They delivered things like toilet paper and food to people's doors at the beginning of the pandemic. We've built in the last couple of years over 400 homes here in Gresham that are affordable. We know that the average household income in Gresham is about $30,000. And a lot of the housing that is being put on the market is completely out of reach for a majority of our families here. So we created 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and 4-bedroom affordable housing units with wraparound services for the community to get people into home ownership eventually, with a 2-to-1 matching IDA program, a lot of services for people to become entrepreneurs and small business owners. We also, and we're the only place in the region that has these kind of 4-bedroom, deeply affordable housing options for our families. We also created over 200 housing units here for people who are suffering from disabilities. And these were designed so comprehensively where the lighting is aware of people's triggers around, shock. The bathrooms, the kitchens are all designed for people with different abilities, both mental and physical. And we're really proud of that. And we started to do our work around creating a parks and recreation system here. So for the first time in 20 years, we actually put $300,000 into a recreation line item to start doing things in our community that give our youth and our families things to do. We created a committee that has 40 members that come from all diverse parts of our city. And they're working to do community outreach to come up with the plans that speak to the interest of our community in terms of parks and recreation. And one of the other things that we did that I'm really proud of, crime and violence is definitely a concern of everyone. We hear it. And so we did increase our funding for police. This council, unlike any other, increased services for that. We also increased services to have non-sworn-in officers join the force. So people who can respond to non-emergency calls, health checks. And in addition to that, we created a $3.5 million program that granted money to community-based organizations in Gresham to hire outreach directors to go out and start making proactive relationships with different communities in our, so Asian, Latino, Black, Slavic, Vietnamese, and these organizations are all going to be hiring people, reaching out to these communities and trying to create more proactive opportunities and recreational programming for them. We hired 2 new young people at the city who are going to be our youth organizers. And so they're putting year-round programming together right now for our young people here. First time that we've ever done that. And recently, we also hired a diversity, equity, and inclusion director at the city. So she is positioned second in command, and she is evaluating all of our programs about how we deliver services in a way that is equitable to our diverse communities and creating a city government that is inclusive of everyone who lives here. All of you know we are one of the most diverse areas in this state, right? About 40% of the people who live here are people of color. About 20% of the people who live here are non-US born. And we are wanting to make sure that our city is reflecting those communities and that those communities feel like they're part of our city and have access in the same ways. At the end of this, we all win when everyone in our community feels included and feels like they have a stake in the outcomes here. And then one thing that we all worked on together, which I'm really, really proud of, is that we helped preserve the Shaw Forest up the street. Raise your hand if you helped with that. Yeah, okay. You can be proud of yourselves. So, this is 8 acres of second growth dug fir trees that were going to be cut down. It's about 300 trees to build 30 homes. And over 500 community members made phone calls, sent in petitions, and East County Rising Community Project was a big supporter of this. Well, at the end of the day, State Representative Ricky Reese, Senator Chris Gorsuch, the City of Gresham, the East Metro Water and Soil Conservation District, all pulled $2.5 million together, and we bought this land so that it remains in the public domain and protected. For those of you who don't know, it is in one of the places in our city that is tree deficient. And this is the largest grove of trees in our area. You all know that when we had the heat zone, this was the neighborhood where it became the hottest in the entire world, right? A couple of years, was it last June, July? And so we need to actually be expanding our tree canopy and doing more to make sure we're protecting our communities who live here. It's an environmental justice issue for us. But that was all done because of the incredible organizing and engagement that this community did, and a responsive government that says, we're going to do this with you all. And I'm just really, really proud of that. You know, it leads right into our watershed. There's the historic painted turtle, the endangered painted turtle that resides there. And we've also found indigenous artifacts in the area. And so there was a lot of work that needs to be done to preserve that area and to make it accessible for people. So all of this work that I just rambled off started with all of us about 4 and 6 years ago. You know, when I first joined our council, I was one of the only minorities on there and first openly LGBTQ person there. And really we were controlled by a small group of people who had the best interest of the business community, at heart. And not that that is bad, but there was a whole nother community that existed here that was not being heard, that was not being included. Today, our council is minority majority. So we have 2 African Americans, 2 Latinos, and Italian women. We increased our women representation on the council, and it's a council that is much more aligned with listening to what the community wants and trying to take action and taking risks. Our city has been in a financial problem for about 30 years. And we were on the verge of going off a financial cliff 2 years ago. Because of our taxing system, for every dollar that we all pay in property taxes, only 24 cents comes to the city of Gresham. The rest goes to the county and to our school district. And our city has grown tremendously. We're now the 4th largest city in the state, the largest suburb, to Portland. And our revenue was not keeping up with our services. And so we found ourselves 2 years ago with about $1 million left in terms of carry forward, which would not have met state statute, which requires us to have at least 8% of our budget carry forward every year. We moved pretty quickly and sort of made some cuts, rebalanced the budget, and this year and this coming year, we'll have a balanced budget without disrupting services. But what we're going to be asking all of you is to engage in a conversation about how we fix the financial sustainability of our city for the long term. We all want to see, more investments in our community. We all want to see better community safety. We want to see better parks and recreation. Those things take resources, and we're sort of stuck. And so by August, we're going to have a feasibility study and a couple of different plans for how we build the sustainability financially of the city, and we're going to be coming to voters with a package for feedback around how we grow this financial problem. We're doing that lockstep with the strategic planning process that we did. Last December, we launched a strategic planning process. To date, we've talked to about 6,000 residents about what it is that they want to see in the city, what are the priorities. We went to schools, talked to our youth, went to senior centers, went to businesses, we had surveys out. It's probably the most comprehensive engagement. All of that got wrapped in. We just had a day-long retreat as a council last week, heard what the community wanted, and ended up with 6 sort of priorities for a strategic plan that will get us through the next 8 years. It is going to be mirrored with the city budget and financial plan, and it's going to have metrics where we're going to report back to the community every quarter how we're doing on those goals to metrics. Again, really trying to be transparent and accountable to all of you. And I think that this is just a whole new way of what I like to call shared governing, where we get to govern together. And we were elected to do the work, but do it in conjunction with you all and not without. So that said, so, as we enter the spring, we must ensure that as a community we stay active and working to care for the crops, right, that we've planted. We must make sure that the elected leadership that's there now continues to hear from us and continues to remain responsive. And we have made this change. There are a group of individuals who think that all of these priorities in this work is a waste of time, and that we should be focusing on policing and more policing, and that anything that we do, whether it's to work on climate or to work on our youth or parks and recreation or housing, is a distraction from that. And we are pushing back saying, actually, we got to be doing all of that. And all of this is sort of interdependent on one another, right? It's all intermixed. And so I ask that when you all hear this, that you help to also bring that message back, that it's not either or, but it's both and. And that is the kind of rebirth and renewal that we're trying to do as a city and as a community. So the gains that we've made are lovely, and I hope that they inspired you, but they're still growing and they're blooming amid the changeable April weather, right? We might see some setbacks in the coming days. We might have to replant some of our crops or splint some of our trees, but the poet Pablo Neruda said it best. You can cut all the flowers, but you cannot keep spring from coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddy. And I know some of you would like to speak with Eddy afterwards. He does have another engagement, but he will be here for a while during our coffee time, and you can chat with him. We have a closing hymn today. It's number 6 in the gray hymnal, Just as Long as I Have Breath, and the words will be on the screen. So let's all rise as we sing this today.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they asked what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long tell them I said yes to love.
Eddy will extinguish the chalice now. The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the minds and hearts of souls of each of you. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place, and share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet. As we go forth from this sacred place, may we celebrate Earth and our shared lives. May we recognize our connections to all that is in and on Earth. May we truly and deeply value the inherent worth of all in this awesome, interconnected web of existence. May we commit ourselves to a new way, and may we hold our commitments and each other gently yet firmly. Blessed be, and amen. Time for some announcements. Our service today is due to the time and talents of many people, and I want to thank Eddy, Mary, our AV wizard John back in the back, his helper Phyllis, our storyteller for her wonderful rendition, Charlene, our greeter, Bonna, who makes sure we're all safe in here, and anybody else I may have forgotten. Next Sunday, May 1st, Reverend Patty, who will be retiring at the end of June, is going to give us a sermon entitled, Never Can Say Goodbye. I find it ironic. And then on a sadder note, well, a different note, The family of Celine Sony, whom most of us here remember with very great affection, invite all of you to remain after church next Sunday for a potluck of finger foods, followed by a celebration of life ceremony for Celine. The ceremony is scheduled to start at 1 o'clock, and because there would be a gap of time, and rather than you have to go home to grab lunch or something, there will be some food for you to eat, and we can all visit prior to the service starting. And some of the normal helpers are going to be out of town, so it's going to be me leading the effort. And if any of you can help with the setup or the cleanup, or if you can provide food for the potluck and maybe some flowers for the tables in the back, please see me after church and let me know, or get in touch with me later by email. And then John would like me to repeat his notice that went out in Petals about, and I'm going to read it, John. Are you curious about how the AV presentations and Sunday services are created, projected, and streamed? It's all, a wonder to me. John is looking for new AV techs, assistants, substitutes, and anyone who would just like to find out how that all happens, how the wizard behind the curtain does it. So please contact avtech@eastrose.org, or there's a number here and you can find it in Petals, or see John right after church. Then also, one of my favorite things of the year is the annual plant swap is next Saturday. Thank you, Karen Pyle and all the others that organized this. It's one of my favorite things here. Yes, and Keen. Yes, it'll be from 10 to 12 right out here in our parking lot. If you have plants or any kind of gardening books, pots, tools, anything you want to bring in for others to have, come. Or if you just want to come and see what free plants are available. I swear a big chunk of my garden are plants that I got from the plant swap. And they're beautiful. My Solomon seals, whoever donated those last year, they're just doing great right now. They really are. And there's more details in Petals, and you'll get a reminder of that in Petals. But it's Saturday, 10 to 12, so come to the parking lot.
Tell your friends.
And tell your friends. I mean, it's one of the outreach groups' efforts to, get in connection with our neighbors. And I think that's how Keen found us in the first place, was through the plant swap. So
Maybe you should not do it.
things happen. And it's free. It's free. And our music coordinator, Mary, who does a fantastic job every Sunday with the piano, with the videos. I mean, I don't find those folks. The minister doesn't find them. Mary finds all those videos. That's her job. And she, a lot of things had to tamp down during COVID shutdown. So we're, as Eddie pointed out, it's springtime here, and we are trying to get things growing again, including the music committee, and she could really use your help. You do not have to be a musician to be on the music committee, just interested in helping figure out how we can incorporate more music into our services. And so either send an email to Mary at music@eastrose.org or see her after church. She's also looking for song leaders, and other musicians. So this is a really important part of service. I know you all really appreciate the music part. So let's help Mary out and volunteer some time. That is it for today. The service is now officially ended. And if you're online, exit YouTube and log on to Cafe Conversations on Zoom. We'll see you next week. And if you're here at Eastrose, you're invited to stay, have some coffee, and visit, meet with Hugh and Eddie and our guests, and see you all next week too, and bring a friend. And there is coffee, and I believe it'll be coming into the chapel here in a minute. Thank you. And if you're picking up t-shirts, they're out in the lobby. See Jean and John.